these two out.
Are we fine?
No, not the nearest of the ones he's So today is August 29th, 2017. This is a business meeting of the North Kingstown School Committee. If I could have everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
Mr. Glasbaugh?
Here.
Mrs. Hoskins? Mr. Jones?
Here.
Mrs. McGoffin? Here. Ms. Stevens? Mrs. Shaw? And student representative. Thank you.
Thank you. And if you could call the calendars, please.
Tuesday, September 5th is the first day of school for grades 1 through 9. Tuesday, September 5th will be kindergarten orientation. Wednesday, September 6th is the first day of school for kindergartners and grades 10 through 12. And Tuesday, September 12th, there's a school committee business meeting.
The new year begins. So first on our agenda, we have two presentations. So if I could have the folks of the Prescription for Addiction and Medication Safety Peers Project go first. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for the invitation. I'm Jeff Bradford. I'm a clinical professor of pharmacy practice at the URI College of Pharmacy. And my colleague Kelly Manson will present our slides. Feel free to ask any questions you have throughout, and we'll take questions at the end if there are any. So we received Platform received a grant for what we're calling the RAMS program, the Prescription for Addiction and Medication Safety for Teen Education for Opioid Misuse, focused on ninth graders. So just a few statistics. Some of these are a little outdated, but they really haven't changed very much based on some recent analyses. The focus is really on opioids because fatal opioids are on the rise. A report just came out a few days ago showing a 66% rise in opioid overdose deaths in 15 to 19-year-olds between 2001 and 2015. Rhode Island, unfortunately, ranks about 5th nationally in terms of overall overdose deaths. And of course, adults have overdoses. They start often as adolescents. In looking at student data, 13.1% in a recent analysis of Rhode Island students have used a prescription medication, not just opioids, but any prescription medication, non-medically or misuse in their lifetime, and that's higher than national trends. And where did they get it? And this is sort of the basis of why we think schools are a basis for prevention. One of the reasons is nearly 10% of students reported that they got that at schools. This is a Brown University study. When we look at some other statistics here, the questions on the CDC study, a national study, looking at just Rhode Island, and this is specifically ninth graders, had they ever used prescription drugs without a prescription? About 1 in 10. Who currently took a prescription drug, and this is what we call 30-day use, 1 or more times in the 30 days, that was about 6%. So that's about 1 in 13. Of those people who got their prescription drug by buying it at school, students who ever took it without a doctor's prescription, again, these are 15 years old or younger students, that was 12.8%. And we know that there's a distinct link between those who misuse prescription opioids and then move on to heroin. It's 3.8% of ninth graders in this study from 2015 used heroin in their lifetime. Very concerning. So what are some of the behavioral risks for you? We've seen this, again, as I said, a transition to heroin use, and that's obviously an extraordinarily dangerous drug, more dangerous in the Northeast and Rhode Island due to contamination with fentanyl and things like that. So it's early age, actually before 15, initiation of use, using prescription opioids not to treat pain, which is a common indicator of to get high, and their lifetime use. So these are where these statistics drove the project. It's important that our project, that you're aware the project fits in with the legislative goals of the state. This is the Rhode Island general laws that say school committees should support instruction in the efforts of making this an older law here, but alcoholic liquors, stimulants, narcotics in the human system, incorporation of mandatory instruction in all grades, effect on the human system, and then charge with the administration of a health education, alcohol and substance abuse prevention program, which you probably already have. So this really fits into these mandated outcomes written into the law. So what's unique about a RAMS program is it isn't just Dr. Manson and I going into the school and talking to your 9th graders and delivering the curriculum. We actually train student pharmacists from our school, and they deliver the curriculum. This was done successfully last year. So they discuss, it's an active learning curriculum. It's designed in small groups. It's still a pilot project, so it works into, however, if you choose to accept this program, we work closely with you and our research staff to see what classes it fits in well. And we know from national prevention data that it isn't just delivering in the classroom, it's delivering it to teachers in the community, parents, etc., peer groups, student athletes. If there's other projects you'd like us to supply the curriculum to or deliver the education to, we're happy to work with you in any of those things. Dr. Metz?
So I just have a few more slides. Ultimately, I'll just go over, as you can see, we basically have a 3-hour curriculum, and what we have done is to fit into most schools, we've basically done a 4-week curriculum. It can be moved around, it can be shortened, depending on how we fit into the school, but ultimately here is what we try to cover in those time frames. So, safe storage, use, and disposal of medications, we really sort of look for and be able to describe for the students what it is for appropriate use, but how it should be safely stored, as well as the disposal. A lot of times, as Jeff pointed out within the curriculum, or excuse me, within the statistics, they're buying it either at school, but they're also getting it free from relatives and friends, and it's because those medications are available. Week 2, we really do go over signs and symptoms, risk factors of why teens are misusing, as well as then withdrawal symptoms. The 3rd week is really overdose identification, as well as what is the response. We do talk about the antidote, naloxone, and ultimately go through the steps. We don't do specifically bringing in and doing official training, but we do walk them through and understand that they can go to the pharmacy, receive naloxone, and kind of walk through those steps with them. And the last week is treatment and recovery resources. We really spend most of the time really talking about how to be a friend to someone who may be misusing or abusing, how you would help them get into recovery, how would you be a friend to somebody like that. So as part of this study, we're developing this curriculum, we're delivering that curriculum, but then we also want to see what the outcomes of that curriculum are. So ultimately, the primary objective is really looking at student substance misuse and what the students are, their knowledge and recall of those skills and knowledge. So the survey looks at risk and protective factors. It also looks at 30-day non-medical use of opioids and alcohol. We do look at other risk or harm from prescription drugs and overdose, awareness of the resources, again, proper disposal, a lot of, again, the things that we talk about and touch on in the curriculum. The curriculum, the survey specifically, it was developed, again, from the United States SAMHSA survey, as well as the Ontario Substance Abuse Survey, but additional questions are asked about disposal and naloxone, things that we're actually looking at as well. It's about 10 to 15 minutes to complete, and we do it through Survey Monkey. So from the cluster 1, which if you approve, ultimately we would be delivering, is to then have letters sent home for parental permission for the student survey. Then would be opt-out letters for the parents. As part of the pre-intervention of the student survey, there's a pre-survey and a post-survey. The students would actually opt into the survey by completing the first part of the survey. So they basically get 1 or 2 questions that ask them specifically if they want to participate in the survey, and then if they do so, then they continue on with the survey. So it's opt-in. Then we would have the curriculum delivery, and then 1 to 2 months after that, most likely probably early January or February, we would come back and do a post-intervention survey, which is just the survey, again, to sort of see if they have pre and post changes in their knowledge and skills. The other things, nicely, because of the grant, we do have some incentives to participate, so $1,000 for compensation to the school, and that can be used determined by the school themselves. There's also an $850 scholarship for 2 high school students to attend UP Eastern States. So UP Youth comes from Columbus each year and does an international Eastern States at Bryant University in July. Jeff and I participate participated in that as well. And ultimately, it's a nice leadership conference that students can go to with a drug-free message. The idea of it is really to help send at least 2 students from your school to be able to bring a lot of that information back and kind of continue the process. Okay. And then, of course, study results would be provided to you at the end of the academic year. And just a few more additional opportunities. We're working with a student to develop some teacher materials to sort of continue, and that would be through a social media campaign and website. So that's something that we're in development with, and so if teachers are interested or parents specifically to be part of that test on student services, that can be available. And then we're also working with the film and media crew at URI. Last year we had 2 schools participate where they ultimately delivered and made a video themselves for their school specifically. And that's up to you whether that would be something that you would like to participate in as well. That's the presentation. Any comments, questions?
I have a bunch.
Sorry. So I'm glad that there's an opt-out, but I was wondering if there's any data about surveys like this. I'm sorry, you said that this is aimed at 9th graders?
Mm-hmm.
So is there any kind of a survey that evaluates the overall population response to the survey as far as participation rates in dangerous activities, where being, sort of still at that marginally innocent age, is being exposed to this kind of questioning planting seeds for some of the students?
I think basically the survey itself is truly driven from CDC, and that survey, those questions, so I don't know of any sort of reason why the survey would be different. Jeff, if you could answer.
Yeah, Kelly and I have worked very hard on a couple of national presentations on adolescent addiction, so I've been analyzing a lot of the epidemiologic data. There's several national surveys that have asked very similar questions, and none of that bias has been seen there in terms of, or there's been no reaction to it. Actually, nationally, drug use is going down, while the outcomes of the use are going up, unfortunately. I don't think that that's a response bias, like people just aren't telling the truth. We can't do much about that. But I don't think that there's any evidence that asking people, maybe an important clarification is, if you say you don't use the drug, we don't ask any more questions. If you've never used, we don't ask, did you use in the last 4 weeks, or did you? So
Yeah, so as soon as there's questions specifically regarding their use, but if they choose that they haven't used or misused, ultimately then the following questions are completely skipped and they move on to the next medication. So it's not like we're asking sort of, have you used marijuana, have you used prescription drugs without a prescription, and then kind of going forward. But if they answer, no, I haven't used, no, I haven't used, no, they don't get any of those questions after that. I don't know if that helps. Yeah.
And it's just use information. It's, here's this thing, we use the exact language that have been used for 30 or 40 years so that they know, but like we asked, it says marijuana in the survey, we don't say cannabis, but cannabis is one of the things we explain. So we're very clear in knowing that it's that substance we're asking about, and it's misuse that we're asking as well.
And it said 10 or 12% of the abused substances are purchased at school or obtained at school, which is really discouraging, but it is only 10 or 12%, so where are they getting the other almost 90% of?
So when you look at the CDC data and other national statistics, it's over 50% that comes from friends or relatives for free. So whether or not it's maybe not intended to be detrimental, but it's more the idea that, Jeff has pain, I have a prescription at home, I'm going to give him that medication. That's misuse. And so that's part of the curriculum in discussing in that first week is to try to understand that actually is inappropriate use. And ultimately, that sharing of medications is one, illegal, but two, not something that they should be continuously doing. And so a lot of what we're seeing is that access of people sharing, not disposing, keeping it for themselves at home. So we talk a lot about that within that first week.
And is there some data-driven reason why ninth graders are targeted?
Because we didn't have a curriculum for middle school.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we really talked about, there are education, specifically middle school, as well as ninth grade. It's right in that frame from a protective factor. The risk is as they transition from middle school to high school, of course, that's going to expose them most likely to older kids who may be more likely to use. So we really felt that ninth grade might be the best. Just sort of, because we heard argument back and forth because maybe middle school might be too young, but there are statistics saying that we are seeing use within middle school as well. So trying to sort of hedge our bets between 8th grade and 9th grade, just that transition.
Any other questions?
Mr. Jones?
Oh, yeah, thank you. Just trying to understand the protocol, right? So the first level to the parents is an opt-out, so is no response equating with consent?
Yes. And that was approved by our institutional review board.
So what's your guarantee that what's the method of delivering the consent form to the parental household?
So previously in the last year, we have IRB approved consent forms that we distribute to the school. The school then sends them home.
With the student?
With the student and or email, however the school determines it best to deliver it to the parents. It's up to the school. But ultimately they give them a deadline to return it. And ultimately if they don't return it, that's consented.
So I'm wondering if it might make sense to tell parents first that they're going to get this consent form and look out for it as a secondary level of saying.
I think some schools actually last year did that, saying that this is coming and making sure that they understood that if they didn't want their student to participate, that the form needed to come back. So we're not trying to say like we're just giving it to a student. The parents don't know that that's something that should be, not acknowledged from the parents' perspective.
So when a student opts in, is the survey response capturing their name?
No.
No. It's confidential to the researchers. It is refresh my memory, Jeff. It's basically the student's initials with mother's maiden name.
First three letters.
First three letters, and then like the first three numbers of their birthday, day. It's not the month, it's the day, as well as.
It's a group. Yeah, I'm sorry we're playing in this, but it's a group of exclusive. We work with statisticians who actually do work in schools with surveys, and they said here are the things that will absolutely make sure that this person is, when they take it the pre-survey, that we can match it with the post-survey to see knowledge changes without having anything identifying other than they're a 15-year-old and they took it on this day in North Kingstown.
So using SurveyMonkey, is that I assume through a URI hosted account?
Mm-hmm.
And so who's going to have access to the data?
It's just us as well as our research assistant and statistician. So again, through IRB, that was approved based upon that linkage to the SurveyMonkey.
And it's also Rhode Island Department of it's pending reapproval for this year, but the Rhode Island Department of Education approved it. And part of that approval and the consent process is if a parent wants to look at the survey, not the you guys can look at the survey, and we can send it to them to review before consent.
It's just my last question. So if a student opts in but says they haven't used, because I thought part of the point was education on it, so are they then excluded from, so they'll get the curriculum but won't be able to test them on it?
So
I'm trying to understand how you're assessing their knowledge gain if they, from the start, say I've never used it.
So questions are asked about their use, but they also have additional questions
Okay.
about disposal, safe storage, naloxone use, appropriate use, etc. So a lot of those other questions that are specific to, one, the national surveys, as well as the additional curriculum that we put into ours. Ultimately, there are questions built in for that. So it's really sort of pre-testing their knowledge. Do they know what naloxone is? Do they know what safe disposal is, etc. And then also looking at it from a use perspective. So then we deliver the curriculum, and then 1 to 2 months later, we take the survey again to sort of see if there are skills and knowledge.
And so then the other part of the survey deals with use. If they opt out the first time, will they be asked again? So like you might capture, like I hadn't used it before then, but for whatever reason I may have used it, you know, so they'll get that same sort of thing just so
They
you
get the
can.
exact same survey
Okay.
the second time. So if anything from their use changes, we see that, but anything from their knowledge, we also see that.
Like ideally, in an anonymous fashion, is if we have a student who says they used in the last 4 weeks in October, and we give them the survey in February, and they haven't used, but their knowledge has gone up, that's a win, you know, if you can determine that.
Any other questions?
Is there a minimum number you need to opt in to implement the program?
You mean per school or overall? We basically look at this overall, so we had 459 match surveys last year
From,
from 8 schools.
From eight.
okay.
How many ninth graders do you have? Do you know?
300 and change.
300? Yeah, that's well, plenty to show. Are you worried about statistical validity or things like that, or just?
Well, I just don't want to go through the effort and then you turn around and tell us that only 20 kids opted in, so it's not worth you doing it.
Yeah, I don't think we had an opt-in problem.
No. And most parents, I think we only had maybe 1 or 2 opt out.
Out of 1,000.
Okay, thank you.
So, with unanimous consent of the committee, if you would like, we can move item F forward. So we have unanimous consent to do that. We don't need a motion to do it by unanimous consent. So we all agree. So if I could get a motion to approve item F.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Just-
Well,
sorry.
yeah, discussion?
It's on here, so I really recommend it.
I definitely recommend approval. I know Dr. Manseri also
Just double
does.
check.
Yes.
But you might have mentioned that before if you didn't. So all those in favor? Aye. It passes unanimously. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next, Mr. Waterman, a presentation on GoGuardian.
I've also asked Mr. Waterman just to give you a very quick update on the Aspen portal information. Some good news that's coming out just this evening.
Yes, so approximately an hour and a half ago, Sherry Lynn Briggs sent an email out to all parents in the districts. I have forwarded the email to the group at the table as well. Regarding this year, instead of back-to-school papers, we're going to do a back-to-school workflow through Aspen. Last year, we initiated this by allowing parents to update their emergency contacts through Aspen through a workflow. That worked very well. So this year, we're doing all of our back-to-school permissions. So the technology acceptable use agreement is one tab in Aspen within one workflow. So this year is going to be 3 workflows. There's a permissions workflow, a health workflow, and the student contact workflow. So within the permissions workflow is the technology acceptable use agreement, the student handbook agreement, the Chromebook agreement. There's one more. There are 4 agreements, and then you sign off at the end. It's going to come to me. And then your next workflow would be the health information. With the health information this year, we have to build those data fields. So we're asking everyone to, for this year, input all the information that, pertains to medications, any kind of medical histories. Next year, what we'll have to do is just confirm that those medical conditions still exist, or if there are any new medical conditions, you would simply be updating it. If there's no information to update, there'll even be a checkbox saying that nothing has changed, and you can move on to the third workflow, which is updating your emergency contacts. So that can be adding people, removing people. That can also be updating phone numbers. So those are all built into Aspen. There's a task widget about 2/3 of the way down once you log into Aspen, and you click on Initiate, and you'll see the 3 workflows. We're also working on a 4th workflow, which will be to allow parents to sign up for Chromebook insurance. That workflow will come out probably sometime next week, and we'll have another email. That one will be an optional one for anybody who wishes to purchase the Chromebook insurance. If anybody needs help getting into Aspen, they can contact the schools directly. The clerks and the guidance counselors do know how to look up and reset passwords within Aspen for parents.
When are Chromebooks being distributed this year? Different age school, or?
So the Chromebooks are already in all the schools. They're ready to go. Each school is doing it differently. Last year, one of the criteria in order to have a Chromebook issued to you was you had to sign off on the Chromebook agreement. This year, because they're ready to go on day one, we're going to allow a little flexibility here. We're going to use last year's Chromebook agreement for the first couple weeks of school, just to allow people to go through this process. Each school is going to kind of set a deadline of, September 11th or September 14th. If that Chromebook agreement isn't completed, the Chromebook will have to stay in school at that point. Thank you for bringing that up. Any more questions on the Aspen workflows?
Thank you for addressing that.
GoGuardian. I was going to say, I'm sorry, your predecessor.
Now that I finally don't have kids in school.
I did share the email. We have a test account. If you want to see what you're missing now, I can certainly send you that information.
You can do my kids.
One thing I do want to add is you do have to do each process for each child. Unfortunately, there is no way to link the information together. It is, unfortunately, each child you have to complete the process for, especially the health information, but contacts and the permissions, you do have to do it for each child. Back to GoGuardian. So GoGuardian I'm proposing this program to replace a program that we used last year. So in 2016-17, we used GScholar. GScholar was a program that was used by our classroom teachers to monitor kids who are using the Chromebooks. What GScholar did was it would show the teachers, so that they would be almost like security footage where they would have individual screens up, and it would show the teachers what tabs the kids had open. Wouldn't necessarily show which tab the child had open at that moment, but if a child had 3 tabs, if they had Google Docs, CNN, and ESPN up, it would show those 3 tabs. But the child could be in Google Docs, but the teacher would never know, so the teacher would go through and close out ESPN and CNN. It was buggy, it was unreliable and unpredictable, and the support was not very supportive. It was a program that did not cost a lot of money, so the saying, you get what you pay for. For what we paid for it, it did an okay job. This, after quite a bit of feedback on it, this spring in May and June, we did a demo. We investigated a few different programs, and we did a demo of one that we thought would fit our needs nicely. We had 32 users demo it in May and June from all school levels and from my office as well. We initially started with the tech lead teachers, but as they got into it, other teachers within the building saw that they were using it and wanted to jump on board as well. So we did allow the demo to expand to get more feedback. So this summer we put it out to bid. We received 4 bids. 1 bid was emailed to us, so it was disqualified, and the 3 bids that followed the bidding protocols were reviewed. And we did receive pricing upon the product, because GoGuardian has a number of different products, and depending on how many years we wanted to purchase the program/service for. So I included the 1 and 3 year comparisons only, because I would not recommend going out 5 years at this point. Yes, you do save money, but 5 years ago, if I was standing up here, I don't know if we would have been talking about Chromebooks, and I don't know if we would have been talking about GoGuardian. So my recommendation is either a 1 or 3 year from CDW, and you can see their costs were lower in every category and for every year interval. The products I'm recommending that we move forward with are the GoGuardian Admin and GoGuardian Teacher bundle. And I'm going to start talking to you a little bit about GoGuardian first. So the reason GoGuardian Admin is a great fit for us is because it integrates wonderfully with our organizational unit structure. So it is a live view, identical view of our OUs. It allows us to filter. So if we wanted to have different filtering based off of elementary students, middle school students, or high school students, it matches what we see in our Google Admin console to what we would see in the GoGuardian console. They are married. The filtering is AI. So it's not screening words. It's not looking for bad words. It's looking for bad context. So what that means is you'll have far fewer false positives. So if a child is reviewing something for a health class that might trigger some of our filtering because of what they're viewing, they'll be able to see, well, this is coming from a .org website, so it's probably credible information than if it's coming from a non.org. It can provide feedback, so if a child is going somewhere they shouldn't be, it doesn't just put up the, you can't connect to the internet screen. It can say, is this somewhere you should be? Or it can put up the, this page has been blocked, this material is inappropriate. And what I'll get to in a minute is, depending on what it is, if they're looking up self-harm, instead of just blocking that web page, it could provide the website for the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. Based off of that, it could also then notify certain staff members that, so-and-so was doing research on self-harm. So maybe we need to speak with them. It allows granular control, meaning we can pinpoint right down to the students. So with our current filtering that's provided to us by Ocean, and we are fortunate that we are one of the few states that doesn't have to purchase filtering. When I was at a recent conference and some folks came in from out of state, they were surprised when we were talking about filtering and saying, oh no, ours is provided through our internet service provider. It's something they have to purchase. I did receive quotes, and it's about $10,000 per year for a district of our size just for filtering. But with that, we don't have too much control of our filtering. So we can filter middle school students, elementary school students, and high school students differently. But when we get the requests from the schools or from the parents, I don't want my child to be able to do X, Y, and Z. We then have to put them into another category. And that category we did create, it's called our strict filter, and we pretty much eliminate everything about Google Docs, Google Gmail, Google Sites, Google Slides, all the Google suites. So there is some information, we block YouTube in that category, but our teachers are using YouTube, so there's kind of a give and take. What GoGuardian Admin would do is it would allow us to drill down to that student, and we can shut off, we can do individual filtering based off of school request or parent request. That's not something we're able to do right now. If we need to filter somebody more strictly, it's an all or nothing. We receive a detailed view of Chromebook usage, and I'm going to show you a 3-minute video that does a much better job of explaining this than I do. And you're going to see them actually drill down with live screenshots of exactly what you can see and what you can do with this product. But one of the biggest things that I like, and I think our teachers are going to like, and our students probably aren't going to like, is it gives us the ability to eliminate the YouTube comments and the YouTube related videos. So how many times have you been on YouTube and you're watching a video on one thing, and then a recommended video comes up, and now you're watching that one, and before you know it, an hour has gone by, and what you originally watched you're no longer interested in because you're watching something else. This eliminates that and just puts the video that they should have in front of them. So again, this is a 3-minute video.
Hey, I'm Frank, and today we're going to take a quick dive into GoGuardian Admin 2.0. Admin 2.0 is the latest version of our filtering and monitoring software for tech directors, IT admins, or other technology staff in your district, or a Chrome extension that takes about 5 minutes to deploy through your Google Admin Console. If you like what you see in this demo and want to try it out for yourself, go ahead and click the link at the end of the video. Okay, so the first thing you'll see when we log in is our dashboard. This is a great place to get an overview of what is going on with all the Chromebooks in your org. I can see top sites, top videos, and even filter by time in your OUs. We import your OUs straight from the Google Admin Console, so setup is a breeze. Now, this is a great 50,000-foot view, but say you want to drill down a bit. In the search bar, you can enter an app name, video, or specific student's name. So here we can see Ron Weasley's individual report. We can see the top sites he is visiting, his top videos, as well as installed apps and extensions. I can also export this into an overview report. But maybe you want to change what students can or can't do on the Chromebooks. This brings us to filtering. Filtering in Admin 2.0 is based around something we call policies. With policies, you can set up different filtering settings based on if the Chromebook is on or off campus, by OU or time of day. You can get as granular as you need. Within each policy, I have the ability to filter by category, apps and extensions, and even have settings specific to YouTube. As we know, most of the inappropriate content on YouTube is actually in the comment section and not necessarily the video itself. So I can age restrict, block the comments and sidebar, and even just specific categories of YouTube videos. Okay, so as we know with the internet, it's not as simple as good or bad, or whitelist, blacklist. GoGuardian makes sense of that gray area in between with our AI-based alerting platform called Smart Alerts. Okay, the first thing you'll notice is an activity feed of alerts. You can click to expand these for more information, but you can also trigger actions based on the type of activity. I can create a trigger in Smart Alerts to instantly block inappropriate content, or send a student a message based on the content of a specific page. Since this is based on content and not the URL, this works on any dynamic website, including Google Docs, Facebook Chat, or Twitter. For activity around suicide and self-harm, you can assign the alerts to the appropriate school officials to get that student the help they need. And finally, we have theft recovery. When you put a device into theft recovery, you can see information such as device serial number, the last user to log into it, a map of the location, and screenshots of usage. Tracking a new device is really easy. Just click Track a Device, enter the serial number, and you're off and running. No need to go into the Google Admin Console. That concludes our quick demo of GoGuardian Admin 2.0. If you'd like to start a free trial or have any further questions,
G-Scholar did allow us to do some tracking, but what it required us to do is essentially disable the device. Here they're saying the exact opposite. They're saying leave that device on so that once it turns on, we'll actually receive a notification that a device that we've marked as lost or stolen is no longer lost or stolen. Frequently at the middle school and high school, we would get a Johnny's Chromebook is lost, we would disable it, and then 10 minutes later, we would get another email saying, can you re-enable it? So that would be a process that was dependent upon us to see the ticket, disable the device, see that the device has been found, and then re-enable it. Here what it will do is it will never disable it. So if it takes us a couple of hours to see that ticket, for those couple of hours the child will be without use of their Chromebook because it's disabled. Here they're always going to be able to see it. We're going to see it's come back online. We're also going to be able to drill down and see that Johnny, who reported it stolen, is now on it, so clearly it's been found, and we'll be able to, clear the ticket without getting other folks involved, such as saying, is that really Johnny's laptop? We can see he's logged into one. So the features that I just discussed are features that we don't currently have through the admin console. This isn't a piece that the teachers would be using. This would be a piece that my office would be using. This would help us manage the Chromebooks better, give us more options. The piece that the teachers will be using is the next slide, GoGuardian Teachers. So a few minutes ago I described that the teachers will be able to see what tabs the children had opened. Here they're actually going to see not only what tabs the kids have open, but what screen they're on. It's not going to be a tab, it's going to be the actual screen. So if I was being monitored in the class, they would see this presentation open. It gives a timeline feature. So let's say the teacher's in the classroom and not looking at her GoGuardian. She'll be able to hit rewind on the day and go back and see, okay, where did my kids spend their time? So, if they were supposed to have a Venn diagram completed, but a child only has the 2 overlapping circles, the teacher can see, well, what did they do during the class? Were they doing research on it and just didn't get to put any information in there, or did they spend the class on YouTube? It allows the teachers to be able to, this is a feature we didn't have, it allows our teachers to push out websites. So particularly in our first and second grades when the kids have to go to, I always choose abcmouse.com. Having to put up abcmouse.com, have the kids go through and sign on and type out abcmouse.com, make sure we don't have a misspelling, or instead of .com, they did a comma. This would allow the teacher to push the web page out and then lock the kids into it. So now you don't have the child who sees an ad pop up on the side and says, yes, I want to go there, click on it, and now they're off task accidentally because they saw a flashing button. They're now locked into where they belong. It allows the teachers to do an eyes on me, disable the Chromebooks so that the kids can't use the Chromebooks at the time. We talked to our teachers about different ways of, screens at 45 degrees. This would be a button. The Chromebooks are disabled. So even if they're plugging away on them, they're not going anywhere. Scenes, I think, is what our teachers are going to find the most value in. So what a scene is it's like it creates a testing atmosphere or a kiosk mode where the students can only be in whatever scene the teachers want them to be in. So if it's just one Google form that they've pushed out, they're now locked into that. But let's say they need the Google form, a reference sheet, and an article that they're going to read. The teacher can set the scene where they're only locked into those 3 tabs. So it's much like pushing out a tab and locking, except it broadens it a lot. So if they can have access to their entire Google Drive, you can allow that. It allows teacher and student chat. It's pretty self-explanatory. Tab control, we just went over. Online training. This was one of the features that I liked about it. You can be GoGuardian certified in about an hour. And it's not 1 hour-long video that you have to sit there. There's five or six chapters that are broken up into 20-minute sections. But within the chapter, there are sections that are 2 and 3 minute long videos. So if you're comfortable using GoGuardian, but you just forgot how to set a scene, you can go to that, watch the 2 or 3 minute video on how to set a scene, and you have a refresher. So the training that's available to our teachers is easy. The great part about this is we have Aspen, which if you're around me enough, you're going to start hearing me call that Big Sis. We have Google Classroom, which is the tool that a lot of our teachers use. Last year, we didn't have anything that connected our Aspen rostering to our Google Classroom. So our teachers would have to either type in all of the kids' names. At the elementary school, that's 20 to 25, but when you get into the secondary, that's 100 to 125. For most teachers, some teachers that see kids every other day, double that number. We have a product called Little Sis this year, hence the Aspen's our Big Sis. We have a product called Little Sis, which is going to create a link between our Aspen rostering and our Google Classroom. So tomorrow, I believe around noon, our teachers are going to receive an email saying that your Google Classrooms have been set up. They received the email saying this was coming. But anytime a child is added to their roster in Aspen, it's going to add them to Google Classroom. GoGuardian is linked to Google Classroom. So if the child's in Aspen, the child's going to be in your GoGuardian. We had a number of experiences, and I think they were only at our secondary level, so not just the high school, but the middle schools as well, where the kids discovered that they could unenroll from Google Classroom and then say, hey, I never got that assignment. Something happened to my Google Classroom. And we actually tracked, we had a few frequent flyers who always had this happen, so we were able to track that they were actually unenrolling. That's going to get old real quick because every night when we run that sync, they're going to be put back in there. So that's an advantage. We had teachers asking for the ability to block that unenrolled. It's not something we control, but it's something they're asking for. And between Aspen, Little Sis, Classroom, this integrating with Google Classroom, it solves a lot of our problems. So from the teacher side, there is no setup to this. Again, this video is even shorter. It's 2 minutes. You're going to see the actual screenshots. You're going to see the timeline. I think you're going to enjoy this video.
Hi, I'm Veronica, and today we're going to take a look at GoGuardian Teacher. So let's say I'm a teacher here at Hogwarts Academy, and my class has started, and I want to see what my kids are up to on their Chromebooks. Click right here on the card, go to session, and here I can see in real time what all my students are doing on their devices. So at a glance, I can see they're all over the place, I can see they have different tabs open, and maybe I want to get a deeper dive to see what Draco specifically is doing. Click right here. Okay, he's in his Gmail. We're doing some group study things. Have some sheets open. Wonderful. ESPN.com. Not necessary for today's assignment. So I'm going to go ahead and just remove that distraction for him. Go ahead and close that tab. So I just remotely, from my teacher station, close that tab on Draco's device. I'm very happy about it. Draco loves it. So let's say a student is kind of getting off task and I need to bring them back to paying attention. I can actually send them a chat directly through GoGuardian. All I do is click right here in the chat button. I'm going to click on Show Chat. Please get back on task. Send. And then that message just popped up on her screen. This also goes both ways. So if a student has a question and maybe is a little too shy to raise their hand, they can send a direct message to me, the teacher. However, this is only teacher to student or student to teacher. Don't worry, we did not facilitate the group chat option for within class. So the screen view is absolutely wonderful to see live updates of what's going on the student screens and all their open tabs. But we also have another view called Timelines. So here, I can see at a quick glance if everyone's on the same website. This is wonderful for if you have a specific lesson plan for the day or everyone is taking a test, so they're supposed to be on the same website. We can tell it'll all be the same icon and the same color. I can tell right now my class is not on the same page. But I can change that. Select all, open tab. And now I've just cut my transition time down substantially. They're all very literally on the same page. You can also scroll back on the timeline to see what sites they were on before, even if you were in the screen view a moment ago. Thank you so much for watching. Those are kind of the broad strokes of GoGuardian Teacher. If you'd like to start a trial for yourself, click.
So I kept this one short. Questions? Yes.
Have you broached this with the union? Are they okay with it?
So we are not monitoring.
She's right back there. She's saying yes.
And we're required.
Former technology educated teacher, by the way.
And we're
I had
required.
asked the same question.
We are required by SIPA to filter any device, whether it's used by a staff member or a student. So the filtering, the filtering for staff would be at minimum SIPA requirements. We don't apply the screen monitoring software. So remember I was talking about organizational units? We have a staff organizational unit, and then under staff we break it down by school. We have a student organizational unit. This would be pushed out to the student organizational unit as far as the screen monitoring. Does that answer?
I just, one of the things we sort of talked about prior to, but maybe just for everyone's thing, is the ability to use this to track, in general, some of the software usage to help us prioritize, what's being used, what's not, to help us refine, where to make software investments, what's being used and not used, etc.
Certainly, because we're a Chromebook environment, everything is web-based. We'll have on the admin side, we'll see the top 5, but they have another product that is free called GoGuardian Director, where you can, I believe it's the top 50 now. It was the top 25, now it's the top 50 sites that folks are using. So if there's a product we pay for and it's coming in 50th place and it's available to all students, but we've got a product that does pretty much the same thing and it's up there, it does give us the data to evaluate, is this a product down here that we should be reinvesting in? And the only thing I would say is I know we have some products that just grades 1 and 2 use, so it may show up, further down the list because we're looking at a K-12. I'm hoping Google Docs is going to be up in the upper left corner. Even YouTube, our staff put a lot of videos up on YouTube, shared from their Google Drive, so I'm hoping to see appropriate YouTube usage up there as well.
So, with respect to that, so you would only be able to see the top 100? Is there any way to search beyond that? Could you type in, the name of an application that might be lower on the list and see how many hours it's used?
I believe in the global view, the top-down view is just the top 50. I believe if there's a certain web page that you want to view, yes, you could through the search in the upper left-hand corner see the web page and who's been going there.
And can you see, when you mentioned YouTube, is it specific enough that, you could tell that, yes, we've got X number of hours on YouTube, but 200 of them were all watching the same silly whatever video. Will you see that?
Yes.
And be able to lock or screen accordingly?
Yes, it does do. YouTube is its own category because it's its own
Because
beast.
it's so, yeah.
Yeah, it does. YouTube has its own category within the admin console where you can see the top 5 or 10 videos that are there. And in the demo, if you look, it was all music videos.
Yeah, okay. So when you suddenly see one spike up, you can nix that.
Yep.
if
We
it's
sort of,
appropriate.
when we were demoing this, we had a game webpage, that went from off the radar to number 2 to number 1. So that was a clue. Let's take a look at that, and we got to shut it off. It's just a quick slide over, and it's gone.
Yes, okay. I've gotten complaints from my kids when you nixed. I'm supposed to click on this button 300 times a day. The app. So.
I've learned this position that I'm never going to make everyone happy. If the parents are happy, the kids are happy. If the kids are happy, the parents are happy.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So we'll get to that as we go through. So next item on our agenda are citizens' comments. No one is signed up. Is there anyone in the room who would like to speak and did not sign up? Okay, thank you. Superintendent's report, Dr. Shaver.
I have a few things about the opening of school. First off, we just received our TARC scores for ELA and for math. The news for Kingstown is very good. Second highest performing K-12 district in ELA and 6th highest in math. There are a lot of other details to sort through. High school did very well in ELA, for instance. Dr. Humbert is going to go through a lot of those details for the committee and for the public on September 12th. So, congratulations to all of our educators, parents, and of course our students for doing such a great job representing the district so well. I want to also thank our maintenance staff and custodial staff. They've been working very hard to get our schools ready. And, the schools that I've been in the last few days, the floors are looking great, the classrooms are looking great. There's still a few minor things to get through, but they've really done tremendous work this summer, so kudos to them. Just for the public's edification, if you have an incoming kindergarten student, you're going to want to come to the kindergarten kickoff tomorrow night. It's at the high school track and field at 5:30. Around 6 o'clock, we do a quick walkthrough on the track and take the first class picture for the class of 2030. Believe it or not. So, if you've got a kindergartner, you want to be there for that. It's a lot of fun. First day of school is Tuesday, but the first day for our teachers and all of our staff is Thursday. And we're going to begin at 8 o'clock at the high school auditorium with a convocation. Our friends in the local media are certainly welcome to join us, as are school committee members, and PTO presidents are also invited to this, and their children help us with the Pledge of Allegiance, in fact, every year when we do this. And we have some entertainment for the activity from some of our tremendous high school musicians, and we announced the support person and teacher of the year at the ceremony. So it's a lot of positive things about the district. It's always one of my favorite events of the whole year. And last but not least, I want to congratulate Donna Sweet. Donna Sweet is an assistant principal at the high school, and she leads the effort at the high school in terms of blood donations with the Rhode Island Blood Center. And she has just learned yesterday that last year we were tied for first place in blood donations in the state. This year we were all alone in first place for blood donations in the state of Rhode Island. And so a lot of great work that she does, and then the kids and staff, community too, for donations and giving to charity in general, but in this case blood donations. So congratulations to her. That is my report.
Thank you very much.
So, next we've reached our routine items. If I could have a motion to seal the executive session minutes of this evening, August 29th, 2017.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I can disclose that we took no votes at our executive session on August 29th. Next, we have reached the consent agenda. Do any members have any items they would like to exempt?
We should exempt C4.
Yeah, we have to do C4 because we have a choice. C4. Mr. McGovern, I think you were not at the last executive session and planning session, so I'll exempt D. Actually, it's 3 and 4. So we'll exempt D, 3, and 4. Any others? Okay. Then if I could have a motion to approve the remaining consent agenda items.
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Jones. Second, Mr. McGovern. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. So the first exempted item are items B, 3, and 4. I'm assuming you're just going to abstain, so if we could have a motion to approve.
Motion to approve the executive session minutes of August 22nd and the planning meeting minutes of August 22nd.
Seconds. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And abstention for Ms. Next, item C4. If I could have, for discussion purposes, a motion to approve item C4. Second. Well, all right, we need to be more specific, don't we? All right, so we should probably, all right, so let's hold that thought.
Or let's pick one and we can always amend it.
So we need, our choice is, just to be specific, we have to decide whether we are going to do, well, first of all, we have to decide we're going to approve or not, and if we approve a 1 or a 3 year. So we can talk first and then do a motion. So discussion.
What we had last year was the first year, right?
Last year we used a different product.
Right. But it was 1 year.
First year of the Chromebooks, correct.
So my recommendation would be to do this for 1 year, just to see how it works out.
Yep.
And
I tend to agree. I mean, there is a savings
Sounds great.
in the multi-year, but I think it makes sense. Now, just a quick question. Do they offer 2 years? So if we did 1 year now and we did 2 years next, we'd get some savings, but not as much as if we did 3 all at once?
They offer 1 through 5.
Okay.
I chose 1,
Right.
3, and 5
Yep.
To put out to bid. Figuring 3 years would line up with the end of our Chromebook lease. But I could certainly.
But next year you could do a 2
I
year,
could do a 2 year.
presumably at a savings over doing 1, 1, 1
Correct.
if we were heading down that path.
Correct.
So then I would tend to agree that makes sense to me. Any comments?
Yeah.
Then, well, we didn't have a second, so it fails for lack of a second. So we make a new motion to approve GoGuardian for 1 year. Do I have a second? I have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Next, we need to do, we had a revision to our NKESP TDI agreement for some technical reasons. If I could have a motion to approve item E. Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. We did F. We've reached unfinished business. Anything on the 2017-2018 school budget? CIP bond, existing bond or future bond? Next, we have a policy change to policy BID. If I could have a motion to approve the amended policy.
Motion to approve policy BID.
Motion, and a second. Second, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. There's a disposal notification in your packet. Any questions or comments on that? And we have reached the end of our agenda, and I would ask for a motion to adjourn. Second. All those in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.